Greetings and welcome. I'm Dr. Nielsen, founder of Nielsen Holistic. If I were to say to you, what would be a supplement that you should be taking automatically right now? And if you aren't, you need to start today. It's what I consider one of my Fab Fives. It's right at, I would say, the top of the list with a general supplement. So a supplement that you can be taking without any prescription, without any recommendation from any doctor, you just need to be taking. And it's not necessarily specific for a certain disease, although it can be, but more general and just general good, healthy, well-being goodness. Probiotics. You should be on a probiotic. Now for years, the world has been eating fermented foods, sauerkraut, pickles, and yogurts. You know, in fact, kimchi in Korea and the Hawaiians eat the fermented poi that they allow to create this good bacteria, and it has many probiotics in it. Kefirs. I'm not talking about the commercialized kefirs, but actual kefirs that, you know, you make at home, the good kefirs, not even the dairy kefirs, but there's many types of different kefirs. You know, for years, countries and nations have been taking in fermented foods that allow for what we call good bacteria or friendly bacteria. And you might have heard of this. Yeah, you probably thought, oh yeah, I'll just eat yogurt. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about our commercialized yogurt that we're eating here, the pasteurized stuff, the type that they add the good bacteria in after the fact because it's pasteurized. We'll talk a little bit about that. I'm also going to be discussing why it is important, why probiotics are so important. You know, the father of probiotics, Eli Metchnikoff, he coined this phrase probiotic. He wanted to prolong life, and he figured he could do it through microorganisms. These microorganisms meaning they can only be seen with a microscope. You can't see them with the naked eye. And he coined this phrase, pro, meaning for, and then biotic, life. And so his goal or his quest was to actually prolong life. He was a Nobel laureate. And so this is pretty cool. Probiotics. Now we have another definition, and with probiotics, we're also able to see that it takes up a host and it actually benefits the host, which would be us. It has to have an environment to live in. So probiotics, all right? Especially probiotics in the digestive tract. Now, when most of us think of digestive tract, we'll think of the small intestine or the lower GI as well. This is where probiotics take up most of the accolades. This is where they do most of the work. However, we're also seeing that probiotics help with oral health, such things as preventing tooth decay or having cavities. This is very important with probiotics as well. It's interesting to think that we are made up of about 10 trillion cells. Not million, not billion, but 10 trillion. Now, most of you have probably never even counted to, say, 100,000. I don't know, maybe some of you when you were kids, you thought, I'm gonna count to 1,000,000, and maybe you did it. But to fathom even 100,000, it's hard for us to comprehend, let alone 10 trillion cells. Now imagine 10 trillion cells, the amount of bacteria or microorganisms, because we think of bacteria as a bad word, so I'll say microorganisms is 10 times that. So we're talking about 100 trillion cells. When we talk about germs, that would be bad bacteria, or pathogens, that is bad bacteria. Good bacteria would be probiotics or friendly bacteria. Those are the good guys that help us keep in balance. So there are bad, there are good. Some of the bad bacteria you've heard of would be round bacteria or cocci bacteria, like diplococci, streptococci, or staphylococci, staph, you've heard of that. Those type of bacteria. There's the rod-shaped bacteria, also the spiral-shaped bacteria. So generally we think of bacteria as bad. However, again, the probiotic, good, friendly bacteria. Why is it so important? Well, 70%, 70 to 80% actually, of our immune is found in our gut. If we don't have good bacteria and our micro warriors, or that good friendly bacteria, working and keeping a balance and actually winning the war in our gut, this can decrease or inhibit our immune system. Probiotics are also helpful in digestion and absorption. What we're starting to see is some of the byproducts of good bacteria or probiotics are such vitamins like K2, which helps with the assimilation and absorption of calcium. You know, for years so many people thought that vitamin D3 and D was so important and take in so much calcium. However, what we're starting to find is like vitamin K2 is so important in the absorption and assimilation of calcium. So if you're out there, just as a side note, if you're taking calcium without vitamin K2 and of course the D3, if you're not doing it with the vitamin K2, forget it. You're going to start creating an excess of calcium, possibly create kidney stones. Some of the science behind probiotics, of course, is the reduction when we do take probiotics just for specific purposes, not in general, but would be the reduction of diarrhea. Also, if you're taking antibiotic, we'll see sometimes people have sensitivities and they'll have a massive amount of diarrhea, and that also decreases antibiotic caused diarrhea by about 60% in one study. Like I said before, probiotics, what do they do in the gut? They help with absorption. They help with assimilation. They help with digestion. They decrease irritable bowel syndrome. In general health, they help your gut with immunity. I said that one. Also, most of your neurotransmitters, so for your brain, is produced in the gut. So of course we want to have a balance in our gut so our neurotransmitters can be produced appropriately so that we can have good brain function. When we think of neurotransmitters helping the brain think, communicate with our body, we think of it in the brain. Yes, it's in the brain, but they're produced in the gut. 70% of those neurotransmitters are produced in the gut. So hopefully you're understanding how important probiotics are in gut health. Now, a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm just going to take probiotics from yogurt." Well, quickly and shortly, how's that working for you? Because most yogurts, especially in America, it's pasteurized. It's made with massive amounts of sugar, and what it's like is like a big slug of snot. Just this big slug of cow snot, you know, gelled together, and we go and take it into our stomachs. Now that's kind of gross, isn't it? It is. I recommend not using the yogurts. Most yogurts, there are some homemade yogurts you can do, there are some kefirs that you can do at home that will help, but most yogurts are going to have massive amounts of sugar, some even high fructose corn syrup, that are going to cause inflammation, cause a decrease in immune function, and cause candida to rise, which are actually going to blow out the good bacteria or the friendly bacteria. So where do we find the good source of probiotics? In nutritional supplementation, or some of these fermented foods that I've talked about, like the kefir homemade, some of the yogurts homemade, the good things without the sugar. All right, but especially I like, without all the other junk, I like a good probiotic supplement, one that has at least about 10 billion microorganisms per serving. And of course we like to focus in on certain strains that will target certain areas of the body. If we're trying to stop diarrhea, we're going to target with a product for that. If we're trying to help cut a biofilm, I'm going to look at it like a Saccharomyces boulardii. If we're trying to help oral health, of course I'm going to look at certain probiotics that are going to help for those certain areas. Hopefully this helped you on this life tip. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Remember, probiotics. I am Dr. Nielsen, and remember this, live in fullness every day.